Alright, for this lesson, we gotta make sure you got what you need. You're gonna have one of the manicure napkins. Anytime you do a manicure service from here forward, make sure that you put one of these onto your tabletop. You can put a towel and then one of these, or just one of these is fine. Feel it on the front and on the back of this napkin. They're both the same. One side is smooth, the other side is textured. There are some napkins that they have a plastic backing. They're a little bit more expensive, but if you drop water, it gets absorbed on the top, but it doesn't go through the bottom because it has plastic. Okay, those are really good, especially when the client splashes around. You have your manicure bowl with your warm water. You have your napkin. Remember when we don't have time to do towels here in class, by the time we wash them and dry them, and there's not enough, we don't have enough, so we do paper towel. Remember that we pat dry, we don't ruffle dry, okay? You may have one or two of those. You have your Aromatherapy Salts. This is green tea, if you smell them. It's green tea, okay? And then you have these little petals. These are little soap petals. These particular ones have a little antibacterial elements in them, so it helps cleanse the skin as the client is playing around with the water. You can put your beads in here. You don't have to. You can do one or the other. It's up to you. Always do some kind of disinfectant for the water for the client. You have your manicure stick, or I'm sorry, your emery board. Then you have your orange wood stick. The one that you have is long, so it has two flat sides. These small sides we switched to, they have a pointy side. I'll show you what that's for. You want to lay your tools out in the order that you're going to use them, so that way it's easier for you. Okay, less time. When you're doing the service and you have your nail clipper, always making sure that you wash the nail clipper and the inside of the nail clipper to make sure it's all good and clean. You have your nippers. You are not allowed to use nippers here, but I'm going to teach you how to use them so that when you do use them, you know how to use them. But for clients, you don't nip. No nipping, okay? And then you have your buffer. I've already used mine, so it's been used a little bit, but you should have a new one. And we're going to use the corners. If you feel the top and bottom are rough, and then the sides are smooth. I'll tell you how to use them on that. You have a hand sanitizer on your table, okay? You're going to share with your partner. Always make sure that you sanitize your hands and, most importantly, your client's hands. You don't know if they were in the parking lot picking their nose before they got here to you, and then they're like, okay, I'm ready, but they didn't wash their hands. Always make sure they wash their hands. Always follow up with the hand sanitizer. So go ahead and grab you some hand sanitizer. As you go along, another thing that I'm going to, I've already ordered and we're going to get, okay, is going to be these little containers. These little bottles. Okay? These bottles are awesome. I'll show you how to use them. Alright. These little bottles here are great. Okay? You know, sometimes you're doing like a sugar scrub or you're doing kind of maybe a pedicure, a foot service, and then you're like, okay, hands up, let's go rinse them off. And by the time you get up and you go find a sink where there's not a lot of people in the dispensary and it's crazy, they wash your hands off, it's kind of hard, right? So we're going to use these bottles. So what you're going to do is, let's say your hand is here, and then you're going to squirt the water and it's going to rinse it. Ah, yeah? Mr. Ramirez is stepping up her game. I'm going to edit that out. Okay, but isn't that better? Much better, yes, and it's clean water, and it's warm. Okay, so you know how your water gets cold? So it's warm. So I ordered some, so super happy, excited for those. All right, so here we go. Edit. Okay. All right, so what we're going to do, your water's nice and good. We're going to go ahead and put your salts in there. This is 1 spoonful. So let's go ahead and put it in. You will notice when you do your salts, it's 1 spoonful with the manicure, with the hand. It's 2 with the feet, obviously because it's bigger. Okay. Then we're going to go ahead and put in our little petals. Now the little petals come of different shapes. And you're going to notice that with the different shapes, they will either typically float to the top, but once they get soaked, they kind of bounce up and down. I'm going to show you what not to do, but we're going to do it because you need to experience what happens when you do it, so that when you use them, you'll make sure it doesn't happen. Let's go ahead and take our right hand. So you're going to take your right hand, you're going to dip it into the water. If you have your beads in here, your client's working on your water, right? Working on playing with the beads. You tell your client, go ahead and move your fingers around so that way the salts can dissolve. And then, my little butterfly is not a butterfly anymore. And then the client's going to do this. Right? It's normal. You just want to play with it. And you're like, oh, it's going to dissolve. You can put your hand in there. It's going to dissolve, right? It's going to be great. So the client's in there playing. Now lift your hand out of the water. Now you got goop all over. Now, okay, now we need you to rinse it off. I didn't take it off, but don't get up. So clean your hands now. Can you? No. You can't. So can you imagine trying to file the nail with this stuff on there? Or can you imagine trying to let me go ahead and try to rinse it off because now it's all over? Would you use this product with children? No. Nope. Would this product be better on the feet or the hands?
The feet.
Why?
Because they can't play with it.
They can't play with it very much. They'll still play with it. They'll find a way to, but not like this. Okay. So it's always important to know what to do with the product and what not to do. What not to do is what to do. Make sure you tell your client, don't play and don't mush around with the floating petals, because then it's going to be hard to get it off. It's going to take, if you have 15 minutes to do it, it's going to take you time to fix it. So now what you need to do, take a second, and then I'm going to go rinse your hands off in the sink. If you have a napkin, you can try and see if you can wipe it off with your napkin. But if it were a client, you would have to rinse off in the sink. So if this was your client, you left your client alone for a second, or you forgot to tell them in the consultation, hey, by the way, when I put this in, don't play with them. When you come back, they're all dirty. Then you got to take time, stop the service, and go get them to rinse their hand. Unless if you have this handy dandy little bottle that you just kind of rinse their hands off in it. Okay? But it takes time away from the service, and not only that, it gets under the nail. But you will see that it gets a little sudsy because it's like a soap petal. Okay? It does help cleanse the skin and cleanse the nails, but it does give you more work. So if you had one of these little bottles, and all you have to do is while they're washing their hands at the station, they can be going back and forth and you can rinse it. The only thing you got to make sure is that that bowl is not too full. Okay? And obviously once you're done, you don't put the hand back into the bowl. Okay? If you don't have this little handy dandy little container here, then you've got to stop and get your client to go out there. Always making sure you have extra napkins. I know we just said one, but having extra napkins does help. Okay? When you're done with this, you're done with your containers, so you're going to stack up your containers. Your containers you're going to throw away. Those are trash. Good to go. Okay? Your bowl. Let's go ahead and take a bowl and push it out of the way. Okay? Then we're going to go with our prep. Now this is how you prep the nail for a manicure, also for a acrylic nail application, a gel application, or a 3D gel application. Any artificial enhancement that's gonna be stuck onto the natural nail, you need this process. You do all this for the manicure except buffing the top of the nail. You don't need to do that for a manicure necessarily. Okay? Alright, so obviously you would dry your client's hand. Okay? Now, there's two ways service providers do this. The right way, the wrong way, the fast way, the slow way. Okay? There's two ways. However you want to see it. So, with the prep for the nail, okay, you do some of the basic manicure steps, which we're going to go through. You've probably gone to a salon where when you get acrylic nails, they don't even use water. They just dry prep the nail. They do the cuticle push back, they buff the nail, they file, they clip, and there's no water ever. And until you get up and go wash your hands, and they put alcohol or some kind of bonding solution, and then they do the acrylic application. Or there are those service providers that have the bowl, maybe not of all the fancy stuff because they charge you extra, but they just a bowl of water and you put your hands in there and you're good to go. Okay. Either one of those two steps. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, but those are the two steps. A wet prep or a dry prep. This was the wet prep. Alright, so what we're going to do, I don't have a cuticle remover or softener right now, but we would put cuticle remover softener and massage it into the cuticle so we'll soften them. Some people don't use that even. Some people just use water. It depends on the salon. What we're going to do is we're going to begin with clipping the nail. Now yesterday we went over the anatomy of the nail, and then we talked about this little piece here that is called the hyponychium. You guys remember that one? Everybody say hyponychium. Hyponychium. Okay. Remember that we talked about the clipper, the nipper. When you go in and clip, you got to be careful not to cut the hyponychium. Okay. A little trick you can do is whenever you're holding the fingernail, take an opposite finger and push the hyponychium back before inserting your nail clipper. Because if you don't push it back, if you just take your nipper and just push it in, and you'll feel the blade. Careful, but you'll feel the blade on your skin if you just stick it right in there. So pull the skin back, put the blade in, and then nip, then cut it. Okay? So go ahead and do that. It's always good to lift the finger up and to take a look at what you're cutting as well. Okay, that way you know that you're good. Take the nail and clip. If you guys are working in partners, that's fine. Push the hyponychium back. Feel for it. Put your nail underneath it if you have to clip. Okay? Once you clip all 5 nails, you can put your nail clipper to the side because you're done with it. What you're going to do is you're going to come through with your nail file. Right now the cuticle remover, if you use it, would still be on there. Let's use a nail file. What you're going to do, let me fix this really quick. What you're going to do is you're going to take your nail file on the nail wall or the side grooves. You got to make sure that the nail file is straight. Okay? So then what you're going to do is you're going to go back and forth on the side. Some people's nails grow outward. Okay, on the side. So you want a smooth, nice parallel lines. Now these two, you can flip the grid around. Okay. On all 5 nails, you want to make sure. Now these regular nail files, the grid is not too rough. So whenever you do these, the nails, the sides of the nails, you don't have to worry about etching the file. Okay? Because it's not really going to cut the client. Now, can it cut the client? Yeah, absolutely. Just not as bad as one of those acrylic nail files. Okay? Those cut bad. Once you file the side of the nails, okay, line them up 2 parallel lines side to side. Then, obviously, according to what the client wants, you're going to file the nail. You're going to hold the nail file on the end of the nail file. We do not hold the nail file like this, here. Because then all you have to work with is this little piece of file. You want to hold it on the end, nice and sturdy, and you're not going to seesaw. We don't do this. Listen. We don't do that. At Stayboard, you get counted out. Okay? You go from the outside corner into the middle. Outside to the middle. Now, whether if you're doing a square, then your file is nice and straight. One side to the other. Listen to the long stroke. Okay? Or you're going to round it out. You go from the corner and you're going to make a round shape. Again, depending on what the client wants, their desired shape. Okay? Go from the corner to the inside. Corner to the inside. Now you can go fast or you can go slow, but you don't seesaw like this. Okay? That's not the professional way to do it. Now, I'm not going to say people don't do that, right? But they're just probably the people that didn't pay attention in class. Every now and then you want to make sure that you're flipping your hand around, you're holding, bless you, the client's hands going, so you can make sure that the shapes are the same all the way through. Now, do you remember when we were filing the nail tips and then I told you go on the underneath of the nail and pull the plastic up? Because there's plastic under the nail tip. Same thing with the client's nail. Okay, just kind of go pull the file underneath it a little bit and make sure you're getting rid of all that excess nail, the nail clipping that's underneath the nail. Okay, once you have your nails nicely shaped the way your client wants them, making sure that they're all the same shape, then we're going to go ahead and move on. So I'll give you just a second to make sure your nails are matching. If you're working in partners, y'all can switch hands as necessary and needed. Make sure you are performing it. Okay. If some of you guys are done, so we're going to continue. We're going to say that the cuticle remover was already up on here and already softening the cuticles. Or maybe you didn't use cuticle remover, you just used water. You're going to take the flat part of your pusher for the cuticle and the pointy part of the pusher, which you guys have the flat ones, but you can use the flat one as well. You're going to go on the underneath, so turn the nail upside down, and then you're going to take the corner and you're going to pick out anything that's underneath the nail. Now, if they have a hyponychium, well, is that going to hurt? Oh yeah, it's going to hurt, so be careful, okay? If they don't, it might even feel good, but you're going to pick everything out from underneath the nails. Now, Mr. Mayers, what possibly could I be picking from out from underneath the nail? Dirt. If they work in a garden, then you're picking out the dirt.
I didn't mean to pick up my shirt.
Sure, go ahead. And the packet there, you're going to find your name on the packet over there. And initial it, and whatever size shirt is listed under your name is a shirt size you've got to take, okay? Thank you, ma'am. So you're picking everything off underneath the nail. Well, what are some things that you think you can find underneath the nail? You're laughing over there, huh? You think toes are gross. Maybe you change your baby's diaper and oops. Maybe you're gotta scratch something somewhere. Oops. Maybe you gotta pick some meat out of your teeth. Oops. Maybe you're scratching your husband or honeyboo's back when you're 50, right? Oops. Okay? All of those things you're picking out from underneath the nail. All that white stuff you feel, that gunk coming out. Hot Cheetos, pizza, hamburger, anything and everything. It's all under there. Typically it's dead skin because you scratch yourself. Now, do you want to be with your client like this? And talking and you're inhaling? No. Definitely not. Why a lot of times nail techs will wear those little covers on their face, the masks? It's a good idea. Remember how when we were filing that artificial nail and all the little white stuff was everywhere? Well, don't you think it's the same on a natural nail? You're just not as white. So if you're filing away and you're and you're breathing it all in, you might as well chew on their finger, right? That's kind of gross. Always protect yourself. When you do it once, not so bad. When you do it all day, every day, because you're a nail tech, it adds up. Always protect yourself. Okay, you come first. All right, let's say we're good on that. Let's go ahead and take the flat part of the cuticle stick, and we're going to push the cuticles back. Now, one thing that I really want you to pay attention to. Remember yesterday we talked about the proximal nail fold? When you're pushing the cuticle back, you're going to see the proximal nail fold, that mantle area, it's going to turn red. One thing that I would suggest you before you start on your client, you tell your client, please let me know if I'm hurting you or if you're uncomfortable by moving your finger. A lot of clients won't tell you because they're shy or they don't want to make you feel bad, so they'll just be there freaking out, spazzing out in their head. They're like, I'm never coming back, right? Please tell them. just let me know by moving their finger. So they'll know, and they'll just kind of move their finger. Don't say anything. Just know and be aware, and then stop what you're doing and go softer. Don't be like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm hurting you, because then it makes them feel bad too. Okay, but just have a sort of communication with your client so they can honestly tell you, you know, if you're hurting them or not. What I need you to do is I need you to go into that nail wall, okay, the nail groove on the side, and get that too. You'll see some little white stuff coming up and popping up. You need to get that corner and get in there. Get in the corner by the nail wall and the cuticle area and push back all that cuticle. Now remember that the cuticle is sticky. It sticks, its job is to stick onto the nail plate. So it's gonna kind of be hard if you don't use cuticle remover or softener. But can you push it back without it? Yes, you can. It's just easier with a remover. Get in there, get on the side. Remember we talked about some people are pleasantly well and some people not so much. On the grooves, on the side walls, some people's are really nice and round and out. Some are not so much. Doesn't mean they don't have them. Just means that it's just different. You gotta work with it a little differently. So really push it in there. Now one thing I do want to point out, I'm gonna move this so you can see it on this up above camera. I'm gonna put my finger straight this way. This, if I hold my cuticle stick at a 0-degree angle, I'm just pushing the proximal nail fold. I'm just hurting them. You don't hold it like that. If I hold it at a 90-degree angle like this, you know, math, it makes a little square here at the bottom. I'm pushing down to the nail matrix and I could hurt them. So you gotta push it and hold that at a 45-degree angle and push back at that 45-degree angle. That 45-degree angle is very important, okay? Once you have completed all of that, you're going to go ahead and take your nail clipper. And with your nail clipper, this is how, the cuticle nipper, sorry, this is how you hold it. This groove, it's ergonomically made so that your thumb very gently and perfectly kind of just rests on top of it. Sometimes when you open this up, this little piece will move, okay, and then it doesn't really work. So you got to always put this in place because that's what's going to spring it open and spring it closed, this little contraption piece in the middle. These are scissors. They're scissors. They're just shaped, ergonomically shaped so you can cut around this very small curved area of the nail. If these are dull, if they are rusted, and they're old, either clean them, sharpen them, or replace them. Do not ever use nippers that are dull. Imagine cutting with, have you ever cut with like a dull pair of scissors and the paper just kind of bends? Imagine that on the cuticle. Well, you're not going to bend the cuticle, you're going to rip it. Remember yesterday we were talking about frayed jeans and the frayed cuticle? Okay? That's what you're going to do. So you got to be very careful. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're just, again, we don't do this on clients, and I'm teaching you how to do it. So when you do use it, you know what you're doing. You're going to place the nipper right on top. You're not going to use the blade to dig in. You're not going to lift the cuticle up. Remember, that's creating a hole. You're just simply going to place your cuticle nipper down and you're going to close it. Now remember that you're working on a curved surface. So you got to continue to curve your nippers as you go around the skin, the cuticle area. Do not use the point of the nipper to lift. Remember, no lifting, because then stuff gets underneath. That can be bacteria, she can get an infection. No good, okay? Do not lift the cuticle. You're just placing your cuticle nippers down, and whatever cuts, cuts. If it doesn't cut, you don't cut it. Also, when you push the cuticle nipper down and close, don't lift up. Because how do you know it's dull or sharp? What if it's dull? And then it doesn't really cut and you lift up softly or quickly, you're going to rip the cuticle. And if you're not just cutting the cuticle and you accidentally are cutting the proximal nail fold, you're really going to hurt them and they're going to start to bleed. And you think they're going to come back? Not at all. Okay? So take a second and make sure that you just put the nippers down. You curve your nippers as you go along, and you're only closing and opening. Do not lift and do not pull. Just follow along, place the nippers down, open and close as you're going in the curvature motion from one side to the other side. I see some of you guys are already done, so we're going to go ahead and move on. If you're still working, please keep working. Just lend me an ear. We're going to move on to the buffing. The bottom and the top buffers are what you're the rough part of the buffer is what you're going to use. The buffer is a rectangle, it has corners. The corners are there for you to get into the corner of the nail by the nail wall in the cuticle area. So on this one you can seesaw type motion is fine. You can go sideways. If you feel the edges are not very rough, so you don't have to worry about cutting the client's skin. You're good. So you're not going to do this excessively. All you want to do is to get rid of any shine, any oil that the client might have. Now, watch this up on the screen really quick. You want to make sure to get the side and the edges. Not only are you softening up the filing you did, yeah, but you want to make sure to prep that as well so that the water does not get in between the gel and the nail. This is what they're doing when they're using the drill. You should not, I do not recommend using the drill on the natural nail. You can. Yeah, I wouldn't use it unless if you're like a pro at it. Yeah, because you can hurt the client. Remember we talked about the thinness of the nail yesterday. Really get in there, get on the side, get the corner of the buffer into the corner. So sometimes you get your nails done, and then they start to lift at the cuticle area and the water gets in. We talked about bacteria and infection and staph infection and chopping your whole hand off because of it yesterday. Okay, of course that's an extreme case, but you want to make sure that you buff that part of the nail, the cute where the lanula is, and maybe now you can even see your lanula better. You're like, ah, there it is. I didn't see it yesterday because my cuticles were so bad. Okay, but you want to go ahead and make sure you buff all the nails, the entire nail plate, and then the nail sides and the free edge tip. Okay. Now, should you touch it once you're done? No, because then you're going to put oil on it, and so then what's the point? Right? Now the soft part here, if you have not touched that part, the soft part, the side of the buffer, you can use it to kind of get rid of any excess little particles, but only if you had not touched it. But if you got your fingers all over it, then you're just transferring the oils. At this part of the manicure, some people will tell you go to the sink and shampoo. Go to the sink and rinse off. You can have a little nail brush and you can rinse off with this little contraption here. Then we're going to put a dehydrator to clean the nail. Okay. But that is how you prep the nail. Those are the steps. First step you're going to do is you're going to apply your cuticle remover if you're doing that. You're going to clip the nail. You're going to file the nail. You're going to push back the cuticle. Cut the cuticle and you're going to buff the nail.
What if the nail's too short and you don't cut it?
Correct. If the nail is too short, you do not cut it, you just file it. When the length of the nail, we'll get into that when we get into the acrylic ends of it. All right. Any questions? Fabulous. All right. So